I've been feeling since our talk 2 days ago, or was it yesterday? It's been pretty okay for me. So not, yeah, having an okay time. Yeah, yeah. I listened to the recording of our talk, and
Sorry, I can stop the recording if you want. That's not a problem.
no, I was saying I've been having a good time since we talked one to one a couple of days ago,
Right, right, yeah, good,
and
good.
I listened to the recording of our talk, and
Ah,
um,
right.
yeah. Yes, no, so it's been, I'm having some rough days these days, going up and down, but these last days been okay for me.
Right, pretty stable. So
Pretty stable.
same, yeah. Well, good stuff. So, have you discovered you've been triggered at any time in that last
Um,
period?
yeah, yeah.
So of
Uh,
course they're the valuable moments. So what was your response to being triggered? How did you respond to it?
mm, I didn't respond much outward in actions. I was more like looking at myself inward,
Yep, yep,
the reactions of the mind and emotions, but not some actions outward.
right.
Yeah, and I guess I'm kind of just looking at the reaction of the thoughts and emotions, and well, seeing that they're not really controllable.
Mm,
When I see them, they're already there.
yeah,
Uh, and there's nothing else. I mean, that's nothing to do. You can't do it. So, of course, I don't want the reaction, but it's like seeing a cat. If you don't want to see it, it's still there.
mm,
Something like that.
mm.
Yeah. And then they've been, yeah, they're like, they come and then they're there for a while and then they go away. Yeah.
Yep, yep, that's good. So when you say you don't want them there, of course that's going to be always an issue if they're unpleasant. But
Yeah.
do
And
you
that's another thought.
do you have the idea at the time? Does a thought come up at the time that that's an opportunity for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a coin. Yeah. There's a one part that would want them to go away, a thought. And then there's another thought saying, this is an opportunity. Yeah.
Mm,
That find it curious maybe and hopeful or some hope, or some, instead of feeling helpless or wishing they were not there.
yeah,
One
excellent.
part,
Excellent stuff. So you're making use of those opportunities by simply
yeah,
noticing them.
yeah, yeah,
And part of the thing is to notice the thoughts or the impulse to action that
yeah,
takes you away from them. That's a short-term fix if it does work, that
yeah,
isn't valuable. So it of course is what's underneath that you want to look at. Yeah.
yeah. I've been, that's on the back of my mind instead of why they're there. That's a distraction. More being more quiet maybe and see what
Excellent.
it
Yeah.
is under, like it's not a big yeah when I'm quiet and look at them, they it's I can see, I don't know what it is in a sense. It's like that's just surface judgment. Yeah.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent.
So then I'm left in a little, I could say, when I can feel a little helpless because something want to know what it is, but something can
Yeah.
never honestly say that I know what it is.
And that's an interesting thing too, that little point there. That part of you that wants to know is the mind.
Yeah.
And of course
Yeah.
that's not really, you don't need to pay any attention to that essentially because there's nothing productive there.
No,
But the mind,
no, it's a,
yeah, it'll dig and dig and dig, saying, yeah, we've got to find out. We can't fix it unless we know what's going on. Why?
yeah, yeah, it's part of that endless control
Yep, yep.
defend. Yeah,
So it does rest on control. It rests on the idea that we can do something about it. And of course, so your helpless is interesting and valuable, but is that what we don't want is helpless in like a victim way, in a resignation flavor.
yeah,
We want helpless in a willing surrender, a recognition that acceptance is what will reveal stuff to us.
yeah, yeah. I can see the helplessness when it's something the mind says, which goes back to a body feeling, which I don't know what it is, but the mind will say this body feeling is helplessness and it's not wanted.
Yeah.
But the body feeling is something different, which well before it didn't want to be felt.
Mm, mm, yeah. And the big thing with the body stuff, the sensations that are the doorway into seeing more about what's going on, is that it's only when we get down to a level beneath labels where we're looking at the details and the subtlety of what's going on at a level where words can't describe it. So if we're using a label, it's superficial and it's just pointing us in the direction. We don't stop there. We keep going until we see the details of the sensations involved. And it's at that level that stories will reveal themselves to you.
Yeah, I feel I have a vague memory of being like that as a child, like a curiosity to experience, and just to not have a conclusion on knowing what it is of the mind, but more that curiosity of a child that
Yes?
it's just like a natural thing to want to. So I do have a vague memory of being in like that in the body long time ago, like, but then the mind took me away, or I got lost, kind of.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I do. Somebody recently, it may have even been you, I don't remember who, but somebody recently described that period of childhood as the discovery period. And I
Yeah,
like that. That's really good. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I like that. Seems it seems there was, yeah, a
It's not
memory of
like
that.
we're collecting stuff to put in the head. It's we're collecting body experiences.
Yeah, to learn to move and walk,
Yeah,
and yeah,
absolutely.
it's like, yeah,
It's when we learn to ride a bike and learn to do all sorts of things. Yeah, sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting that that part is still going, is still alive in us. It still has juice, that part of us. But for a lot of people, it's very, very covered up, very heavily weighed down. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's I can see when I do this, it's hard. It is. I can sense it, but it's hard to be like feel it totally. I can sense there is a curiosity there that I was in and it's still there, but still it's the part of the mind that says this is not wanted, or if I'm or try or gonna feel it without listening to the mind, is still a sense of doing it not for the joy of curiosity, but more for like there's a purpose to I'm doing this to solve a problem or something, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
I can kind of sense it there, but I'm not. Well, some moments I'm in,
Yeah, of
and
course.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's also as for me, it tends to put me in trouble because it's like, what will happen if I push this red big button?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the discovery child would be compelled to push it just to find out what happened. Yeah.
yeah,
But then when we get adult, we lose all of that, or we cover it up. We didn't, we've got to take life seriously, and you don't touch red buttons, and how boring.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's amazing how okay I was with pain as a kid. I'm just learning to walk. You fall, you hurt yourself so
Yeah.
much, but it's no problem.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no strategy yet to try to avoid it.
Hmm. And if we do,
Yeah,
kick something with our hurt our toe, it's it's it it's instantly not there the moment our attention goes to something else, some other discovery, something like that. And straight away that pain is gone. Uh,
Not
until
my
it's time to
experience.
go home to mummy and get a band-aid put on it or get it kissed or something. Yeah.
No, I remember a lot of crying.
Yeah, I guess everybody different too. So yeah, I can't remember hurting myself. I know I did. Sure I did. But can't remember how I reacted to that early pain. Yeah, I guess for some people it would stop the playing, the discovery stuff. And for others
I,
it's something in the road.
yeah. I remember. I don't remember too good, but I just know how I react now. Many times it can be blaming yourself. Why did you do that? A lot of thoughts starts coming. Why did you do that? Remember next time to don't do that. And a lot of stories about identity around physical pain.
Mm. And you know, there's a kind of an irony, and it's the same thing as for other things, that you don't have to tell yourself to remember to do it better next time, because that learning will happen anyway. You can't not learn from something when you do that. It has an effect. Then the mind comes in and says, now you be more careful next time. And then when you don't, when you're successful, the mind pats itself on the shoulder and says, I did that, when of course it didn't. Yeah, so much of what this stuff is about is unlearning stuff that we learned, and usually stuff that came a bit later. You know, the stuff that we used when the child was told to grow up and be responsible. You know, that's when the heavy stuff started. Nighttime there for you, Lennart? Oops, she's gone. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. Was the question?
Is it nighttime there for you? Or very early morning?
No, it's morning, but it's like the sunset is like very early or late. I'm just confused about sunset is in the night, right?
Yeah, sunset and sunrise.
Well,
Yeah.
the sunrise is very late and sunset is very early.
Yes.
So there are only some hours
in between.
left.
Yeah. Does it snow where you are? Does it get that cold?
Yesterday it snowed, but it's not cold enough to stay on the street. So
Right. So how have you been?
yeah, actually, our last meeting, I guess, changed something for me because I told you that I was still sometimes driven by this idea to move to a different place and somehow yeah, sometimes it really takes me away. And then, although I know that this is really a fantasy and maybe just an escape mechanism, now I'm much more clear about it again. So it seems like, that was just another dream, and now I'm awake again. So, yeah, but then somehow I also talked about it to my best friend in Berlin. And then somehow we decided to meet more often again because at the moment there are construction works between Hamburg and Berlin. So I'm not able to go to Berlin that easily. It would take me a lot of hours. And before I actually started to go there every weekend because it's like 2.5 hours by train. It's not that far. So sometimes I went in the morning and came back at night, or maybe sometimes I stayed overnight. And actually, the reason why I came back to Germany was that I wanted to connect again more to my friends and my family. So, yeah, anyway, I guess what I did basically when I was getting sober and also in the pandemic, it was like to isolate myself. And I think it was also necessary, maybe, to get things clear for myself. But then, kind of, I never really got out of this isolation again. So that's like a very slow process. I'm opening up to other people again. And a nice thing is also that I have some contacts in the city I live in right now. But I mean, I came here 1.5 years ago, so it's not, those contacts are not that intimate yet. And sometimes I think, yeah, it's nice, but then when I meet those people, a lot of times it's like a lot of blah blah for me. So it's like I'm not so good in taking part in that. But yesterday, for example, I was very surprised because one, yeah, woman I know, she suddenly called me and she opened up totally and she told me things that were like very private. It was like about a breakup, and then I was very surprised, and I felt kind of, I don't want to say honored, but I felt really grateful for her choosing me to to share that. And maybe we are going to meet today. And yeah, so I don't know. I just understood that it I mean, I can't say that I already like said goodbye to this idea to move somewhere else. It's very ingrained in my personality, I think. I mean,
But it doesn't
but
seem to be pushing anymore.
yeah, it feels like a relief, because sometimes it happens to me like that. My mind is telling me, okay, then you have to do this and that, and you have to organize that to move there and take those steps. And then obviously this is like really a maniac
Yeah.
thing, like because it goes really into detail, and then I feel really stressed. And afterwards I think, what is that all about? Why am I having a fantasy and being stressed by it, and it's not necessary at all? So I think yeah, somehow it's settling a bit. And that also, yeah, I think the big subject is like really being connected to people, because every other place will not feel like home when I don't connect to anybody, and I don't yeah, I'm always isolated, so it's rather that thing. And yeah, for example, at the moment, just for fun, I'm doing like this extra qualification. Um, it's online and it's about resilience. I mean, some of the things are, yeah, a bit, I don't know, I don't find them so useful, but there are also other things. There's like one lesson which is about networking, but it's like, um, yeah, more like getting aware of how many contacts there are already there that you might not be aware of. Um, and when I did this exercise, then I understood I have a lot of contacts. There are a lot of people in my life, but I just don't contact them, or just very often I don't really appreciate even those contacts. And that's something to do with a lack of awareness as well. So yeah, I guess it's really maybe that's like the big thing for me at the moment. I mean, I'm not thinking I have to achieve anything, but it's just like um, yeah, I'm understanding that this thing about feeling home at a place has more to do with those kind of things, and not so much with the place itself. So yeah.
And even if you make good contact with other people and that contact has a level of intimacy about it,
Mm.
that of course is a wonderful thing. It's worth recognizing that still that experience is being filtered by your own interpretation and your perception
Mm.
of what's going on. So it's kind of a weird one to say, and it's not meaning to lessen it in any way, to reduce it, but that feeling of being home, that feeling of connection is in us. It's in ourselves.
Mm,
It's not in the circumstances. It's not in the other people. It's
mm,
in ourselves. So when that woman opens herself up to you, she's making a statement about you,
mm,
about her idea of you, which is that
mm,
you're not going to judge her, that you're going to be
mm,
compassionate and etc. Yeah,
mm,
yeah. Okay. One thing you said that made my ears prick up a little bit was
mm,
when you said that you have this process goes on, this thinking or these fantasies or whatever version of it is, and that it seems you seem to dismiss it with the realization that it's not necessary.
mm,
Now it may be true it's not necessary,
mm,
and if that's enough to end it, to change it back from unpleasant to pleasant, then it's not a way to go. It's a bypassing kind of arrangement.
mm,
So
yeah.
when you get triggered, it's always welcome,
Mhm,
and it's always an opportunity for you to see something else about what's going on for you. And then
mm,
it will go by itself, not because you're saying it's
mm,
unnecessary. You're not having any process going on like the non-dualists who say, well,
mm,
you're only awareness. Why would you feel this or that?
mhm.
That's a logical conclusion, and that's it's a short-term fix often, but yeah,
Mhm.
don't miss the opportunity that it presents to find out a bit more about what's going on down there.
Yeah, I found out, for example, that I mean, at the moment it's actually okay, but sometimes there are things in the background at work mm, that, yeah, um, yeah, it feels not really like mobbing, but like people talk behind your back and then somebody else tells you about that, and then
Yep.
I
I get
know, okay, well, I was not present in this situation, and it's not a good idea to listen to that and then imagine those people talking about you or something. This is like a complete delusion. So,
yes. So all that's
uh,
true,
hmm,
except if you feel something intense and unpleasant when you hear about it. And so let's say
yes,
somebody tells you about somebody else, bitchy, or whatever. They tell you about
hmm,
that person. Right? What you say is true about it, but if you have a reaction when they tell you,
hmm,
that's where the
yes,
use is for you. That's where the value is in the
I do.
yeah.
I do have a reaction. I mean, it's not, the reaction is not as
Intense.
extreme as it used to be before, but there is still a reaction. I mean, I
Yeah.
would lie if there was not, because
Right.
I think it activates this thing like
Sure.
mm,
Of
I
course.
feel very well at work, and I think like, oh, I'm really friends with everybody. So
Yeah.
this
And then you
has
find
to do
something
with
else.
this trauma of being the outsider, wanting to belong to a group, and then suddenly somebody tells me, yeah, but that colleague said this and that
Yeah.
about you or something. And
And
then it's
break you right
like,
back out.
oh, but I thought that we were having a good contact or something. And the thing is that we are still having a good contact.
Yes.
But yeah,
Especially
so.
when it goes, it's Chinese whispers, I think they call it. One person
Mm,
says something to another person, says something to another person, and it changes
mm,
completely. Yeah. So,
yeah,
so
but I guess
it's
that are
never
the
about saying I shouldn't have that reaction. Of course, in the
mhm,
background, there is that. It will be good one day when there is no response, there is no reaction to that when it happens. But at the moment, there is a little reaction, and that shows
mhm,
us something.
Yeah, and that can stress me in the background. And then the trick of my mind is to say, yeah, well, I'm going to move somewhere else anyway. So
Yeah,
this is like, I
yeah,
mean, this is a really cheap trick, but it worked in the past. Like, and it's a bit like, yeah, well, anyway, I don't belong to this group,
yeah,
so I'm just here for a visit or
yeah,
something.
yeah. It's good to think in terms of honeymoon periods. You know, we move
Mm,
to a new place. It's like falling in love. You know, you fall in love.
mm.
There's a honeymoon period, and it's great. Well, when the honeymoon period's over, it's time for something else. But a lot of people just finish at that point and go and start again. So they have one honeymoon period after the other, and moving to a new place
Yeah,
gives you a honeymoon.
actually, most of my romantic relationships were like that, actually. I mean, when the magic was gone, then
Yeah, time for the next step, and it never happens. Yeah,
yeah, but you can't chase for this feeling all the time, and it's exhausting as well. I mean,
of course, yeah. Yeah, I think in America at the moment, the average marriage, I think I heard, I don't know if it's true, but there was people saying people get married every 5 years to somebody new.
mm, well, I don't really know because I don't know what it would be like in other countries, but in Germany, you have to be separated for 1 year and then you can divorce. It's not
Okay, so not
like in
quick, yeah.
Las Vegas or something.
Mm.
Yeah, and there's a different thing. I mean, when I think this idea of, yeah, anyway, I don't belong here, I will um, move somewhere else. I noticed that there can also be sometimes a bit of this selfing aspect of, I don't want to say to feel superior or something, but yeah, to think like I'm different to anybody else, and I'm moving away to a different place anyway, and I'm really aware of it being to be selfing.
Mm.
um, and there is something, I'm, yeah, it's like, mm, sometimes I really feel like the things I maybe not so um, happy about in my behavior, or things that sometimes I feel like, I would like to change that now exactly those things um, are sometimes helping me be to not feel superior, to feel
Mm.
like, yeah, come on, you're like everybody else. I mean, you are not you are not wiser than anybody else. You also have your issues like anybody else, and
Yes.
that's keeping me on the ground, and also making me a bit more humble.
Mm.
I don't know if that's the word, but the word helplessness was mentioned. Maybe that's not the right word either, but somehow, yeah, the mere fact that I don't have control and nobody has, and that feels like the acceptance towards that I can't do anything, that maybe there is a process happening and things will eventually change. Um, but um, yeah, it somehow makes me able to accept things more, to feel more connected to other people because they have their issues as well.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm making sense now, but
I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. So is it obvious to you that when that even a hint of that sense of superiority that you mentioned that comes from
mm,
that, or being different or whatever,
mm,
obvious to you that that's an escape, that's a diversion away from something unpleasant?
yeah, I mean that more on a more subtle level. For example, I remember you saying last time, like, maybe I heard this in a wrong way through my bubble of reality, but you said that mm, that um, something like you don't understand what most of the people are after. Um, when you look at the orientation of a lot of people, what they think is important in their lives. And I think you said that you don't really understand that sometimes. And this doesn't mean to feel superior, but there is still something like they are different, or I'm different, or don't understand those people, or isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, I don't quite remember. I don't. It doesn't ring any bells for me what I might have said
No?
that
Okay.
you interpret that way. One of the things that I do believe is that
Mm,
I don't understand myself very well. So
yeah.
how could I possibly even begin to get close to understanding somebody else?
Mm,
You know, stuff goes on here that I have no idea about, where it comes from, why. Most of the time, when I open, like right now, when I open my mouth, I have no idea what's going to come out. I don't know where it comes
mm,
from. Yeah. But for me, there is a sense of freedom in that. There is a sense of whatever happens is okay, and if it happens to be uh, have if it's what we would call a mistake or something that's
mm,
wrong, you know, then once again, it's already done. Well, by the time I realise it, it's a case of A, I'll learn from it, and B, I have
mm,
consequences to face.
mm.
You know, yeah. So
Yeah.
the feeling different from other people is it's true. It exists, and it happens at a certain level. But
Mhm,
if I get underneath that level, then I can see that whatever anybody else might be going through, it's possible for me to go through the same stuff.
mm,
Maybe it was once, or maybe it will be in the future, or whatever, or it's just possible. See,
mhm,
I can't. Whatever I think is happening, whatever I think is being said by somebody else, it has to be part of my experience.
mhm,
Otherwise, I would have no conclusion about it. And it's got. So how do we? That begets the question: how do we experience something new? Well, maybe there's nothing ever new. Maybe
mm,
what everything we do is always based on something else. Yeah, I
okay.
used to think when people made up songs, you know, how do they invent a new tune that nobody else has ever done? And
Mm,
I came to think, you know what? I'll bet you there's bits and pieces of every tune they've ever heard in that.
mm,
They just put it together in a unique way, but all the different aspects are part of their experience. I don't know. That's just what that was comes back from a long time back in my life to realise that there's nothing unique, but yet
yeah.
everything is unique as well. So
So,
yeah.
mm, so thinking like I don't understand how those people can be like that or do that. It's like running away from the fact that I could do exactly the same under certain circumstances.
That could be the issue,
Yeah.
yes. There would be a
Mm-hmm.
certain flavor or a certain something about that would tell you if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Am I
Mm-hmm.
projecting onto them in order to not take ownership of it for myself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Because we do
like
a lot of that as humans. We're taught to
yeah.
do that. It's always their fault, isn't it? Never my fault.
Yeah, it's something like, no, 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 I don't have to do anything with this dirty business. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, actually, this I don't know anything is actually something that I don't want to say it's like it's something that is coming to my mind more often now,
Yep. Do you feel it's
especially.
inviting?
Hmm?
Do you feel that it's inviting?
Yes, I
It's
mean,
seductive. It's going to be really good.
mm,
I don't know
yeah,
anything. It's just amazing. Yes.
yeah. For example, it makes more and more sense to me that it's not necessary to think about things uh, in order to happen, or I
Mm.
don't know. Um, I mean, if I think about something beforehand or not, doesn't really change anything.
Ah,
So anyway, I mean, not most of, but I think all of my assumptions are based on nothing. I mean, I don't know anything, and that's something that comes to my mind more often now, and it somehow also takes away the ground for more speculation. So it's
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
mm. And then it sometimes also yeah uh, I wanted to say I don't mean God in that way, but thank God I don't know anything. So sometimes I'm feeling rather grateful for that.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. Yep. And I'm imagining. I mean, my experience says that along with not knowing anything, there's not an obsessive desire to know anything.
mhm,
It's really very much okay to
mhm,
know anything, and even even this gets a little bit weird. Even saying I know everything I need to know,
mhm.
so that if I'm presented with some original situation and I have no idea what to do, I know where to go to find out. I don't need to carry around dead knowledge to be prepared
Mm.
for something that might or might not happen.
Yeah, and then when I quit taking drugs and drinking and so on, at first it felt like a desert where there is no destination again, no destination anymore, and as if there would never again happen anything interesting or magical or I don't know, pleasant. And then there was somehow the understanding, no, it's not like that. It's just not, um, yeah, maybe there are things happening, but not the things that you expect. And now it's rather like I feel that there are millions of things that could happen. So it's not um, not this limited view of running against a wall or something.
Yep.
But I'm still clear about the thing is about having expectations. Then I'm limited to this thing that's supposed to happen, and that then the awareness is only on that, and all the other things are not seen. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff.
that's also like, I don't know anything, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's rather like something to feel curious about.
Yeah. Good one. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know what kind of a teacher you are, but you're a great student.
Uh, yeah, I feel I have like those movements from, yeah, super deluded to clear again, and then, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
of
like
course.
that.
And it will always fluctuate. It will always be in and out, up and down. Yeah. Good stuff.
But it's a bit like, I don't know if you know the story about yeah, when you um, live in a house and you wake up and then you look out of the window into your garden, and there is loads of shit like somebody put into your garden, and then you can be angry about that,
Yep.
or you can
You can
just
do
use
stuff
it
in it. Yeah,
to make your garden
yeah,
fertile.
yeah,
And it's sometimes a bit like this, like, oh, there's a load of shit, so I can cultivate something on
yeah, yeah, yeah.
my garden.
And at a certain level, it's like every situation has every situation inside it. So it's like whatever turns up, what we immediately see it as is that very narrow focus that you mentioned, and then but what is available is endless possibilities.
But it's like a black box full of surprises, and maybe unexpected surprises as well.
Well, they almost certainly will be unexpected if we don't have expectations. So everything's a discovery. That's good. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds like you're still doing very well. Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel content.
Well, it's time for some more shit to turn up for you then.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see
Maybe.
what
Yeah.
comes next.
Mm. Ramiz, have you noticed any changes in the last couple of days?
I don't know. Maybe something feels weird.
Weird good or weird bad or weird sad or weird how weird? In what way?
It's all
Just new?
I don't know, like my sense of time is earlier I had like a very long cry, and I don't know, I was asleep before after it or before, and like between sleep and wake, it felt weird. Like being human is weird.
Mm.
It felt not as foundational.
Okay. Did you?
Like
Yeah.
it's like waking up. It's like I'm being introduced to the experience of human, and it feels odd. Like there's like the normal feelings, like having a body is just normal. It's just, but it felt weird. Like, what the hell is this?
Mm. Did it feel like it wasn't your body, or did it just feel different? Is this a new experience for you?
It it happened before, but this time was longer, maybe. Uh,
Mm-hmm. So what was the overall tone of it? Did it feel good? Did it feel bad? Did it feel pleasant, unpleasant? Did it feel cold? Did it feel hot? What was the overall tone of it?
I remember before it was scary. This time was unsettling, maybe.
Okay. So unsettling would suggest a little bit of worry, or just uncertainty.
It's like something feels wrong about it.
Okay.
There is it's hard to explain, but like there's a sense of well that seems um it suggests that somehow I'm creating this, and I could, in theory, experience something different than being human. It's like there's a channel, and I'm just getting used to go to the human channel, and maybe I could go to the different one, something like that.
Mm.
And it's like there's something has a gravity to pull me here again and
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah. Like maybe reincarnation or something along that lines. So when you say being human, you're not, that's a very general kind of thing that you're saying, but you're not actually considering any details about what human is. You're just saying being a person.
It's very tied to the experience of the body.
Right, right. Okay, so that other possibility, even though it didn't show itself very clearly, did that other possibility, was that minus a body or a different body? Or it just didn't come into it at all?
The body is the weird part,
Oh,
the
okay,
introducing of the body.
so being human is the body.
Yeah.
Yep, yeah, got it, yeah. And is the body a limiting factor or a, a, a great creative factor, or something in between, or something else altogether?
When in the normal state, it feels like a limitation.
Right. Yeah.
But in the state where the body is coming to my awareness is this pull of gravity that feels as if the body a source of safety or a source of
Okay. Quite the opposite of what I was expecting you to say. Yeah. So it's a
not safety, but like having orientation, having
yep.
not just floating.
Mm, mm. Yeah, being grounded. Yeah. Bianca's nodding. Yeah. So the not being human, does that what comes to mind here is that's a very freeing possibility, not anchored, not grounded with the body, but free. Is that accurate or not?
Um, it feels unrelated.
Okay.
I mean, it feels it's free, but not for me in a sense. I don't know how to explain.
Mm. Yet what I'm getting is that you're not tied to the body. It's almost an option, but it is a preference. Oh, maybe preference isn't the right word. It is, I don't know, inevitable. Is it inevitable that you will be the
It feels forced.
forced? Okay. So if you don't force it, just imagine the fantasy that you don't force it. Does that then mean that you go the other way, the non-body way?
I don't even know.
Yeah,
I can't know what that means. Or
yeah. Yeah. Does it feel,
there's
yeah, going?
yeah, I'm having like pictures of memories that seems very significant. Like they are very random. Usually when I'm in a new place and I'm just like this feeling of being in a new place comes to me randomly, and it seems tied to this feeling of weirdness or novelty,
Mm, mm.
not knowing where I am or
Yep, I get that. When you first started talking about being in the body, that I got that feeling for you, that there was that novelty, that there was that um, it wasn't familiar.
it is, but it isn't.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I get sometimes this feeling this, why am I here? It's not like, why am I in this room, in this world? It's just,
Why do I exist?
it's also not exactly this. Uh,
So I get from both of you actually. I get a sense of you know, you're smiling and you're a little excited and so on. And I get a feeling that um, th- I don't know. Is it to do with discovery? It feels like, you know, there is discovery happening for you in this. But I've had from both of you quite the opposite. I've had from both of you that there's something diabolically wrong with everything at the same time. it's a good trick, isn't it? You two seem on the same
mm,
wavelength so often, you know.
yes,
Yeah.
it's like when Ramiz started talking, I got a feeling that I don't know what he's talking about, but I know what he's talking about. But on some level, I know.
Mm. It feels familiar, yeah. And it's just so hard to talk about this stuff, isn't it? It's just kind of, wow, outside of, there aren't the right words to do it. So would you, Ramiz, what is the feeling, the over, the if we look at the step back and see the whole thing, would you say that the feeling that it's a good thing or the opposite? Or something else, of course.
Right now it feels sparkly,
What's that word again?
like there is a sparkle in it somehow. Sparkly.
Sparkly, right, got it now. Yeah. Effervescent, yeah. So there's a degree of excitement in it.
How to know what comes in my mind? Is is that possibly like a freeze response?
Could be, could be.
Because I was really suffering intensely.
So when you said, is it possibly a freeze response, were you talking about the thoughts dried up, or were you talking about the whole experience that you've just been describing to us?
Yeah, the physical experience.
Okay. No, no, I wouldn't see that like a freeze response, but it certainly may be an avoidance response. But the feeling that I get from you, that sparkliness and the smiling, etc., that's happening when you're describing it, makes me think it's maybe not an avoidance kind of thing. It's not it's not a protective avoidance thing. It's actually a discovery of something. It's a new thing. That's what occurs to me. I don't know how right it is, but yeah.
Yeah, but I understand. I also wonder if this is a kind of disassociation for me.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's possible. Yeah, that if it is a dissociation, but
Is it possible
you go.
to dissociate into the body?
Usually the opposite. Usually dissociation means that you don't feel anything in the body. It's like that you're not there. That's what dissociation is. That there's a disconnect with things. Whereas for you, it was almost the opposite to that.
But the freeze response, I think it's different because there is a sensation aspect to it in the body.
Yeah, this was almost an out-of-body experience, would you say? It was like there was an attraction to be in the body, but it was almost like that's the direction you're moving from outside the body. You weren't in the body. That's where that moment of apparent choice, or what you described as you could go one way or the other. You could go into the body, or there's something else that you don't do. That's not appropriate. That's not human. You know, it doesn't really, I mean, we can only have stories about what it might be.
Yeah, I have a question. Because this being in body, you said it like the body is the point of reference. Yeah, like a 0.00.
Yeah.
Baseline, yeah.
And it's this gravity to have this point of view from this point of reference, and without it, it's like there's no inside and no outside. There can be.
I don't know what's outside the body. It's the moment when there was contact with the body. It felt something felt weird about it, like it felt involuntary, like, and like there was a gravity, but there was also resistance to it.
I heard you say something before, correct me if I misinterpreted, but it sounded like you were saying something along the lines that the body was grounding you. The body was giving you anchorage, stability, something along those lines. Was that accurate? Did you say that, or did I just imagine it?
Um, something happens that makes the body contract, or it happens very fast. Like, I'm aware of the body, it feels weird, and there's a contraction, holding on, that feels involuntary. It feels like falling, but resisting the falling.
Yep. So say a little bit more about the holding on. Was that to do with the resisting of falling?
It doesn't make any sense. Like I don't know what falls into what or
Yeah,
hold into what. It doesn't make any sense.
yeah, right. Well, we're in an area where words just can't do it, even close. Yeah, yeah. It's a tricky one. Yeah. But this, even if it doesn't make sense at a logical level, the feeling of falling is something that you experience, eh?
Something feels missing in like there's some kind of trigger that I'm not catching somehow.
And if you did catch it, what would it do? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
I don't know, probably it won't change it.
Okay. But there's an impulse to catch it, isn't there?
I don't think I can.
But is some part of you inclined to? Even though you don't think you can, is there an impulse in that direction to do that, to catch it?
I don't know why that's scaring me a little, that question.
Mm. Okay, that's fruitful. How do you feel about being a little scared about that? It's not so scared that it's really difficult, eh? It's just a little bit scary.
It's like to catch it is like I won't be there to catch it, something like that.
Okay, okay.
It's like how to catch myself from
Yes, yeah,
being myself.
yeah. I get there's all those contradictions in it. Yeah. So it seems to me that there's some juice in the idea that you wouldn't be there to do it. If you tried to do it, there would be nobody to do the catching. It would just not happen. Does that feel accurate?
It feels like a breakdown of a line of, I don't know, like an error in the system.
Now, what is the error? The inclination to catch it or the inability to catch it? or something else.
The whole thing, the whole exploration, like
Bianca's right on with you, yeah. And I'm just full of question marks. Yeah, tell me more. Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of something I've heard. So, but the self is this contraction. But there is some trigger, we don't know what, and then this contraction of self happens. But I don't know if it relates in any way to what Ramiz is saying.
So when you said that contraction, Bianca, I got the feeling of pulling away, that kind of contraction. But I'm not hearing that from Ramiz. A slight difference there, just subtle differences, but yeah.
Maybe I got confused because you said that there is a trigger, and then what happens?
it's an assumption. I don't know.
Is the assumption the story that you put on what the experience is?
It's assumption that there was a trigger.
Oh, okay. Yep, yep. Yeah. It's a pretty good assumption, I think. You know, we don't feel much
Okay,
that trigger.
but then after this assumed trigger, what happens?
The contraction, the contact with the body, the falling into the body, something.
So settling into this grounding into body is a contraction.
Yeah.
And it's involuntary.
Yes.
And the resistance to this settling is the other force.
That's when the error happens. I don't know. But it's like the contraction is the settling and is the resistance at the same time.
Oh. Means now I understand, but I don't have any idea about what it is.
Me neither. There's a lot of uncertainty in it.
And what?
In the falling into the body, into the contraction, into the experience.
It feels more like being lost.
Is that scary or something else?
It's scary and sad.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when I ask you what is sad about it?
Because my mind immediately tries to grab into others or recognizable people in my life. And the impossibility of that makes it sad.
Right. Okay. Got it. Yeah. That's clearly your separateness again, your separateness from those other people, your separateness from everything.
Yes.
Have you been, Bianca? I mean, when I say that, I'm saying
Oh,
it's your opportunity. Hmm.
oh, no, now I'm thinking more about this feeling of something's wrong, an error in system. But also, I thought about this. You said also something about time. The sense of time is different. I mean, where I have this feeling, why am I here? It's a bit like the memories of how I got here. You know, like the normal memory. They seem a bit disconnected. There is memory, but there is not the usual causality.
Right.
I mean, it is in my mind. My mind still can make the causality, but it doesn't feel so real.
Mm.
Oh.
So we often talk of memories like the only memory we have is our own memory, but maybe it's a memory of not you. Is that too weird?
I don't know what it means.
Mm. I don't either. I'm just making it up, but it feels like sometimes we have a memory of the human race rather than memory of an individual. Just, yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter. I don't want to get too weird on you. But when you say there's no apparent causality, that's, you're saying also there's no uh, sequence or no continuity, that they seem to be random and unrelated.
Yeah, maybe it's not that I lose the sense, but like it's another possibility.
Mm.
Mm. Well, you know, if someone would ask me, how did you get here? Then I would be able to tell
Yeah.
how I got.
And there would be causality and sequence and all of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, but it's a story.
Mm. Here's another really weird question for you. Do you think it's possible to have a memory of the future?
I don't know. Is any memory a memory of the past? How do I know?
Exactly. Yeah. And how do you know if it's real or created? Of course, it's always created, but how close to actuality was it? That's another story, of course. Again, we can't know because all we have is our memory, whatever that is, that creation. Yeah.
And these are place of the mind. I mean, this reflections on memory and what is memory. It's just the mind playing. And I was just trying to describe what I feel.
Mm. Yeah. And it doesn't have to make sense. It's because it is what you feel. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a weird story, and I'll certainly come up with a few of those today. But it almost feels like both you and Ramiz, to me, it almost feels like you're at the cusp of becoming human. As soon as I say that, it sounds really weird, but it's like you haven't been quite embodied yet, and yet here you are, you're kind of exploring the possibility of that happening. Uh, and you don't know whether it's a good thing or not. Yeah.
What do you mean by embodied human?
I'm not sure what I mean. I just had that well, it wasn't an image, it was more a feeling of coming into something. So it's almost like you were a gas and now you're forming into a liquid or something along those lines. Just I'm not trying to make sense. I'm just kind of playing with what comes up, you know. Um, and it's just so I'm trying to understand. I mean, how can you understand something that's not understandable? But there is that great curiosity I have about what it is that you're experiencing, and uh, it's it can't be put into a traditional framework. You know, it's just because what we're talking about here, the subtlety and the details of this are just way beyond what you'll ever find written in a book or shown in a movie or whatever. It's just too subtle and too complex and too indefinable. Really hard to, you know, indescribable even. We just can just play with it and see what comes out of it. See, this whole thing is this whole waking up thing is really a case of unlearning a lot of stuff that we learned and became habit in terms of how we feel good. It's all about feeling good. And so we escape from bad feelings. That's a big thing that goes on, and we seek good feelings. You know, so we like chocolate and we like being warm and etc. You know, so those kind of things. But the amazing thing that we realize is that so much of the suffering comes from adopting the traditional story. But you guys never adopted the traditional story. And yet there was suffering. Yeah. I wanted to backtrack on the suffering thing a bit, but I think it's appropriate. There was suffering. Even though you didn't put on that traditional coat of being a human.
Yeah, well, when Ramiz said something about this grabbing onto close ones, the people you love, it is like I feel that no amount of human connections, no matter how good quality, is able to relieve this. Like it's not the point.
Hmm.
And this is why it is so sad.
You said that no amount of human connection can I forget the word you used, fix it, alleviate it,
Relieve.
relieve it.
Relieve.
Yep, okay. Would you not do you not recognize that a large part of the suffering is the lack of human connection, the separateness?
It's also this, but
Yeah, it's also
not this part.
yeah, okay, yeah. So connection is an issue for both of you, isn't it? It's really, there is that sense of not being connected.
But it's also like it's all made up.
That you can be connected is made up? What's made up?
Separation and connection.
Yeah. Well, it is.
Both.
You're right. Yeah, it is made up. Yeah. So when you have connection, it doesn't exist. It can't exist, right? But the opposite can exist. You know, that lack of connection, that disassociation, that separation, that's tangible. Connection is not tangible.
No, that's not what I said. They are both made up.
Hmm.
But it doesn't mean they are not tangible in my experience. They can feel very real. They feel.
Hmm.
I don't know if maybe I am going into a story now.
Yeah, don't worry about that. It's all story. All the way down it's stories. But yeah. So certainly I get what you're saying. Connection and separation are made up. They're concepts. But what's not a concept is your experience of those things, what you feel as a result of those things. So if you feel isolated, that's a pretty heavy feeling. If you feel connection, it's apparently the opposite. If you feel connection, you feel a warmth and a closeness. If you feel separate and isolated, you feel cold and a distance. Those feelings are real, even if they're based on a concept, aren't they?
I think I meant I made up. I meant something other than concept.
Say a bit more about that.
What, how Ramiz was describing it, that there is falling into and resisting this falling into, and that is a contraction, and this is how it is made,
Mm.
the connection and separation.
Do you guys feel that there's value in looking at these things in this kind of detail? Is there a discovery there for you? Is
For me, there's nothing else I want to do.
right? That answers my question. Hmm. is the seeking dropping for you, Maja?
Oh no, I'm very much seeking. Now but now that you ask, um, I'm after details now. After looking into unpleasant things, I went into looking even smaller and smaller unpleasant things. So I got to I don't feel like it moments, which are also unpleasant, but very, very small. You never
Yep.
notice them,
Yep.
more or less.
But still there a reaction, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't feel like getting up from the sofa, for example,
Mm-hmm.
this small. And so, and I fell ill, so I didn't feel like doing much really. But nevertheless, unpleasantness. I really don't like when I have sore throat. I really don't like it. So I looked into it, but it was so physically unpleasant that nothing came out of it. I really don't like to have sore throat.
Mm.
And that's all I have from that.
Is that
Um,
associated with, I mean, what comes to mind here is your mask wearing.
yes, yes. And it's a bug my husband brought home. And I blame it for him. I blame him for it because he thought he didn't need a mask somewhere. And I fell ill 48 hours after I got green light from my oncologist. He
Right.
said, it's been 6 years, you're a healthy woman now. And 2 days after that,
We can't have
2 days,
that.
no, 2 days after that, if it's COVID, it's my first bout of COVID. And it damages immunity. I don't want that. This is a big don't want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big one for me because it's life or death. I need my immunity. I know I need my immunity. It did a terrific job already.
Mm.
But then I think to myself, okay, my immunity is now damaged. And then I said to myself, or not.
Very good.
Uh,
Very good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole story, oh, I'll get other infections now, or not. And then I dropped the stories.
Yeah. 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 As soon as you say the or not, you go, well, that was a bit pointless,
Yeah,
to put it there and then negate it, Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
Really good one, that one. Yeah.
yeah, this is what I do. And then maybe these small things, maybe I use them up. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. It's funny looking after. Oh, where is it unpleasant? Where is it unpleasant? So then I thought to myself, I might start looking for pleasant things and what they do to me.
Yes.
And this whole pulling me and pushing me game, why do I stand up from the sofa or don't stand up from the sofa? Why do
Yes.
um, I don't know, do anything really?
Mm.
And I found it, I started playing the piano after 100 years again. And I'm actually not playing, I'm just playing with chords and listening to chords. Some of them are very, I don't know, the musician guy, he is not here today. There are chords that are pulling you towards other chords to resolve,
Mm.
and others dissonant ones you don't want to hear. So there is really pushing me and pulling me in the music. And then when you just
when I just sit and play with the piano, there is this. It's everywhere. Pushing me, pulling me game is everywhere.
Yes. Okay. This seems to me a good segue into Fetters 5 and 6. 4 and 5, sorry. Fetters 4 and 5 into desire and aversion. Okay. What the appropriate what the intention is with the fetters, the fetter work there, is to recognize that when you get to the feeling of desire or aversion, that the sensation involved in the feeling is absolutely agnostic. It has no instruction, it has no information. It is just a sensation. But there are stories attached to it, and the stories are what give it the flavor. The stories are like the pepper and salt, right? They're the things that flavor it. And the stories are, I don't want to get up from the sofa. That don't want is triggered by something tangible, which is the feeling. And the feeling, of course, is a sensation with stories. So what you do with the Fetters 4-5 stuff is that you're looking to recognize that it's the stories that give the sensation whatever meaning you have. And you're looking to confirm for yourself, only in the beginning, you're looking to confirm for yourself that there's no actual button called desire or aversion or ill will. There's no actual button there. What we took to be a button was actually the complexity of sensation with stories. And we took it to be something actual. So by experiencing, when you say, I don't want to get up from the sofa, essentially you're describing a feeling, right? A contraction, a heaviness, or whatever that feeling might be, that says, it seems to say, stay there. Well, the feeling does say, stay there, or the feeling does say, oh, it's going to be an effort, or whatever the actual thing is. But it's not the sensation component of the feeling that does that. It's the stories. And so when you can see that, then you recognize that there is no such thing as want or resistance, the opposite of want, whatever that is. That they don't exist as a thing, that they're really the outcome of that complexity of sensation plus stories. And so what they do with the Feta work is that they look to move towards the sensation, but not so close that it dissolves in the beginning. That's the only need to do it in the beginning. If you get too close to it, it'll go. It'll dissolve and it won't be there anymore. So you don't want to get so close. You want to get in between the stories and the sensation. So you want to see, you want to recognize that the sensations have got hooks into the stories rather have got hooks into the sensation, but they don't belong there. They're not an intrinsic part of the sensation. And the sensation seems to give the stories validation, and the validation seems to give the sensation. Well, the other way around, you know. So the stories give the sensation validation, and the sensation give the stories validation. And so it's a closed loop. It's a circular thing, but it's not actually true. It's not actual validation. It's just more stories that say it seems to be something tangible and real. The reason I don't want to get up from the lounge. So the moment you recognize that there is no actual button, that in this case is the aversion to getting up, then the whole thing changes. That whole feeling changes. The feeling is a result of a belief that there is actually a thing called aversion or desire. So
I think I get it.
yeah. So you have to play with it, but the idea is
Yeah.
to look for that space between the thought and the sensation, and just sit there, and it'll become quite clear to you. And essentially, it's just such a brilliant thing, because although that's where most people do most of their work with those fetters. But once it's seen through properly, once you recognize that there is no such thing as a button called desire that gets pressed or activated, then all desires simply become stories that you can not cater to or cater to. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a huge
Okay.
one. And the fetters, that technique is entirely suitable for those little ones that you were talking about. That's
Mm.
because those little ones, they add up to big ones, and they rest on big ones. So again, it's a case of recognizing that they're just a creation of the mind.
Although I just woke up with a big one that it's really good for the analysis. I had a dream and a strong desire for something in the dream, but I the feeling is the sensation is the sensation, and the other part is just a dream, which we know are
Stories. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So being able
Okay
to
for this.
allow them to separate is absolutely huge, because we are brought up to believe that they're intrinsically tied together, and they're not.
Yeah. Because until now I took the sensation and watched the sensation until it dissolved. So
Yes.
this was too close then.
Yes.
And I just discarded the story. I discarded the thoughts with it. Why do they? I mean, I maybe shouldn't ask, but why do they occur together?
Oh, that's what we're trained for. That's easy. That's you just think of like desire. You can imagine the little child wanting ice cream, standing in front of the fridge, demanding ice cream from mother, for example, right? And mother gives it to the little child. Well, after two times, that's all it takes, two times, but maybe more, right? We have this trend, and so the child gets the idea that the expression of a desire is what brings about the ice cream. And it's a false association. It's not actual, right? There are a whole lot of things involved in why the child actually got the ice cream, but the causation, so correlation is not causation, fits again there in that one. And so for all the world, the mother will say, you wanted ice cream and I gave you ice cream. I satisfied your want. Right? But the reality is that they weren't connected. They just appeared to be.
It seems to me when I get this, my whole world will fall apart.
Yeah. It
But it's
will, but
okay.
it won't. Yeah, that's right. It, you will never lose the ability to operate in it like you used to. A lot of it will simply fade off because it'll just be seen as stupid, not necessary kind of thing. But your ability will remain. You'll not lose that ability.
Exciting prospect.
Mm. But yes, it is
The
like the whole
question.
world falls apart. That's true. But what you have is a new world.
Great. Great. I hope I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
Oh, you certainly.
Desperate now.
There you well. Yeah, I love what I hear from you. It's working well, and you've got that brilliant mind that just kind of can put things into context easily. That's what I love. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a contradiction in that one, but it's not a contradiction at all, but an apparent contradiction that, a whole lot of what we're doing is we're dismissing stupid stories, but we're using the mind to fix the mind, which is even
And
trickier.
you know what? If this is so that there is no causality, I will say something that is really old and the others know it already, I guess. If there's no causality, then there is no control.
They do are tied up, absolutely tied up together, for sure. Yeah.
That's when I can't get over.
Mm. And are you like me? When I think about it, I'm just blown away by the I can't help but laugh and just the amazing the the depth of the brainwashing that's happened to give us, and everybody out there, the whole world will argue to the point of death about the fact that there is no control or there is control, and people will often think if there's no free will, that means there's determinism. Well, that doesn't work either. Right? There's no free will and there's no determinism because everything is always in flux. Everything is always changing. So so it's not quite right to say there's no causality, but it is right. But let's say that the causality is infinitely complex. Right? I would go as far as to say, and a realization I had was that everything that's ever happened since the beginning of existence, if that's a thing, and I say that because it may be, there was before that, who knows, but everything that's ever happened had to happen exactly the way it did for anything that's happening now to be the way it is. Change one thing generations ago and this would be different. It's just a logical thing, and that for me is also a portal into the lack of separation. How we, in fact, there is no finite boundary anywhere of anything. Everything is all interconnected and humming together. They're not parts even. It's only it's the completeness of it all that makes it work. Yeah. No, it's mind-boggling. You can't get your mind around it. It's too much. Yeah. But it gives you a feeling for it. Yeah.
Okay, so I have my assignment now.
I missed that, sorry.
I have my assignment now between the sensation and the thoughts
Yes.
of aversion and desire. Okay.
Yep. So there'll be a moment when you grok. Do you know the word grok?
Yeah.
No, Robert Heinlein brought it up in one of his science fiction. He invented the word. But what grok means is that you understand it at a bodily level. That you
Okay.
you really, really you know it at a in every fiber of your being, sort of thing. Yeah. So
I would say
when you grok that there is no desire or aversion button, it's just that takes the foundations out of so much stuff that we focus on. Yeah. We experience. You going to say something, Bianca?
I always wonder what you mean by determinism.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because it's a stupid concept. You know, it's the idea that things are predetermined about how they'll work out. And how can anything be predetermined if some of the conditions involved are evolving as we speak?
I mean, predetermined by whom?
Say that again. Determined by what?
By whom?
Right. Well, they're not. They're not. It's just a stupid story, isn't it? That anything's determined.
Maybe it is, but if there is no one who did it and no one can knows how it is determined, then what difference does it make? Maybe it is determined.
Yeah. Well, a large part. Well, it's easy to see that all of the religious people in the world think that everything's determined by God.
Yeah, but we are not religious people.
Right. So, in which case, can we substitute anybody else that's determined anything? No, surely not.
But we can still make a supposition that
And we do.
it is mechanistic,
Yes.
and in this way it is
Yeah.
determined, but by no one.
Yeah. So imagine you've got a couple of gear wheels that are meshed and they go around and they mesh and they mesh and they mesh and they mesh. And you throw an iron bar in between them and it gets caught. Is there any chance you could say which particular teeth it's going to lodge itself in when it gets caught?
Well, this is a part about knowing how it is determined.
Right.
And knowing is not possible, but that it is determined, it is possible.
Mm. I can't give determined any credibility. It's a convenient story, that's all.
How can you know?
Okay. I can't know. Maybe there is a God. I don't know. So the bottom line is I have a belief.
Yeah, not everything determined or no determined, both our stories, both our
Yeah.
beliefs.
Yeah. And it's a bit ridiculous to get into either of them. So if
Well, it's not natural. We have the beliefs that are the most comfortable.
yes, of course. We're always looking to feel good. Yeah. Mm. And to say to people there is no such thing as free will makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
I think it's well, it's the point when you realize that there was never any control.
Mm. Yes. And that's a key one too, because once you realize there
believe.
never was, there is no loss to coming to the understanding that that's the case. Mm. Well, I'm thinking it's time to wind up, eh? What do you guys think? I certainly don't want to cut anybody off if you've got more to say or questions or whatever. But yeah. Okay. Then we'll wind up. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.